who answers.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'll explain that in the introduction. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Kara Myberg-Guzman, CEO and co-founder of Santa Cruz Local. Santa Cruz Local is a local news podcast, newsletter, and website. We serve Santa Cruz County. We give you the deepest reporting on local government and our county's biggest issues. And we are supported by our members. We have 640 plus paying members who support local news. The reason why we're here today is this is our Scotts Valley City Council Candidate Forum. This is the second of 5 candidate forums we're hosting this week, where we will press the candidates for local government on the questions we heard from our readers, listeners, and residents of Santa Cruz County. Before we get started, I want to thank our partners and co-sponsors who made today possible: the Aptos Chamber of Commerce, the Association of Faith Communities, Capitola SoCal Chamber of Commerce, Community Bridges, County Park Friends, Live Oak Cradle to Career, Pajaro Valley Chamber of Commerce, Santa Cruz Community Health Centers, Santa Cruz County Business Council, Santa Cruz County Chamber of Commerce, the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History, Santa Cruz Indivisible, Santa Cruz Policy, Santa Cruz Works, and the Scotts Valley Chamber of Commerce. So as we get started, if there's, I want this conversation, have the opportunity, if you'd like to hear it in Spanish. Our interpreter, Beatriz Trujillo, is here, and I'm gonna pass it over to Beatriz.
Yes, so first in English. So if you want to choose an interpretation language, I'm gonna soon be assigned as an interpreter. So as soon as you see the world icon at the bottom, make sure that you pick a language that you prefer, whether it is English or Spanish. Once you have chosen, once you have chosen that language, make sure, well, this will be for Spanish speakers, so let me do it in Spanish. Para los que nos quieran escuchar en español, dentro de unos segundos, yo voy a estar asignada como la intérprete. Va a aparecer un icono de un mundo hasta abajo. Asegúrense de elegir español. Y una vez que eligen español, asegúrense de también seleccionar la opción de poner en mudo el idioma original para que no estén escuchando dos voces al mismo tiempo. And that's it. So now if you can assign me as the interpreter. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatriz. This conversation is being recorded today. We're going to post the video as well as the transcript on our elections guide at santacruzlocal.org/elections. Now let's meet the candidates. So we have 4 candidates. Voters will get to choose 3. Candidates, please say your name and why you're running for City Council. You'll have 90 seconds. Stephen will keep track of time. First, Donna Lind.
Hi, I'm Donna Lind, and I have served the city of Scotts Valley for the past 52 years. I've started as a police officer and actually as a city health secretary and then first female police officer, and was elected city council 12 years ago. And this particularly is a difficult time for the city of Scotts Valley. We face some strong challenges. Economic recovery is key. And I really feel that I bring experience in the relationships that I've developed through the years, including my work with the Chamber of Commerce, the Fallen Officer Foundation, and our local businesses, to be able to assist our community in recovery. And I think it's going to be very important the next few years to have that experience and some consistency in negotiating some very difficult fiscal times. I also have strong ties to the community. I was named Woman of the Year in 2011, very involved with our businesses, and I think that's going to be very helpful in this recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Randy Johnson.
Thank you, Kara. My name is Randy Johnson. I'm running for Scotts Valley City Council. I've been the mayor a number of times. And with being the mayor comes a lot of responsibility. And I don't think anything is more true than what we've kind of gone through this year in terms of just trying to pivot and make things reasonable for our citizens and our businesses. It's been very, very tough with respect to our finances, our ability to keep the city running, keep it intact, keep restaurants open. These are all very taxing for our community. And I think drawing, as Donna said, drawing on the experience of how to get things done. You know, I kind of got into politics with respect to helping build a high school, getting Scotts Valley Drive finished, libraries, fields, community center. These are all things that have happened, and having a hand in that has kind of made me proud and wanting to do more, wanting to make sure that this city, which is a fantastic city, is able to survive, is able to thrive. And for that, I'm running again because those are the things I feel, and I feel passionate about them. So I just want to make sure that I'm there as our city needs us to kind of get through these very rough times.
Thank you, Randy. Jack Dilles.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here tonight. I've lived in Scotts Valley 26 years, and I love this place. I moved here with my family because I knew it was a good family community, safe, great schools, green environment, and I've never regretted that for a second. And the more I've lived here, the more I've wanted to be a larger part of the community, and just to the extent I can make things happen, I can add value. I want to do that. I think my particular experience does add value to the city government. My career was in government finance. I'm the previous finance director for the cities of Scotts Valley, Morgan Hill, and Santa Cruz. My career was in government finance, so I bring a lot of solution-oriented experience in the financial arena as a staff person. And I think that helps a lot, as was pointed out, how we're in serious financial situation now, like many folks. I also bring 10 years on the county school board, the County Board of Education. And so I've learned to really value the need to watch out for our young people and to do everything we can to help them along. And I think that brings a lot to the council as well. So I really love this place. I'm active in a couple of service clubs in the community. I know lots of people. So for me, it's a matter of the experience as a current city council member, as a one-time mayor, and as an active community member. I bring a lot to the city council.
Thank you, Jack. John Lewis.
Hey, thanks for everyone at Santa Cruz Local for including me in this. I absolutely appreciate it. I'd also like to thank the existing city council members for making Scotts Valley a community that I wanted to join. You guys have done a tremendous amount of work, and I absolutely appreciate that. I first got familiar with the Scotts Valley area when I went to, oh, there's my cat. I went to Mount Hermon on a church retreat when I was in elementary school, and I fell in love with the area. The trees, the cool air in the mornings, the fog that rolls in. It's all amazing to me. When my wife and I had a discussion a while back and we decided that we wanted to start a family, a bell rang and we decided that we wanted to do it here. We recently joined the community in Scotts Valley. I've only been here for a year and a half, but I'm a hard worker and I want to try and have a positive impact. So I figured I'd jump in with both feet and try to help out in city council any way I could. I've been a tech worker in the Bay Area for all of my life. When I was 15 years old, I left high school to start the working force to help my parents pay the mortgage, and I have a strong work ethic. I absolutely do what I can to try and improve every situation I enter, and I try to do it with grace, and I try to do it with pride, and I definitely try to thank people for the work that they've already done. And I want to be able to put in my time and my effort to help Scotts Valley grow and deal with the challenges that we're currently facing, which are vast and many, but I have a creative thought process, and I'm definitely interested in helping people climb the ranks and do what they can to help out and offering opportunities to new folks.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, now for our main questions. These questions come from our readers and listeners. We've had a survey out over the past several weeks, and these are contributed questions. We'll paste each question in the chat box. So for those of you following from home, you can check the chat box at the bottom of your screen, click the icon marked chat. We ask that you be respectful of the other candidates in your response. At the same time, we invite you to differentiate your policies and plans from the other candidates. I'll call on each candidate. You'll have 90 seconds. Stephen will keep time, and you should be able to see his clock. Okay, first question. Voters asked about the town center. It's a development plan years in the making for the area near the Scotts Valley Library and the old Kmart. It calls for denser housing, shops, restaurants, and a town commons. Why has the town center vision taken so many years to realize? What parts of the town center plan would you push in your upcoming term, and how? Randy Johnson. Oh, Randy, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted there. So that's a very good question, and one that has kind of haunted, I think, the city of Scotts Valley for many years. And really one of the reasons I think that I chose to run again, because it's one of those issues and items that has gone unfulfilled, and I really, really feel it's important for our city. We're lacking in Scotts Valley a sense of place. Most cities, whether it's Capitola, Santa Cruz, Watsonville, and so forth, have a downtown. And that's such an important community benefit. What I would propose is that we maintain along the same lines that we've been proposing to the community for a very long time, which is a combination of housing, but also retail. Retail is something that I think the community wants and is deserving of. But it's one of those things that has changed in the last years, of course, because with Amazon and so many other online retailers, the appetite for brick and mortar stores has really dropped. So we're looking to be able to form a town center, form a place where people can gather. We do right now have interested parties, even through this, bad COVID time and so forth. Been a lot of disappointment. One of the factors that's beyond our control is that Santa Cruz owns right about half of the available land there, and we have to make accommodations with them. So we're still very positive about the future of the town center.
Thank you, Randy. Jack Dilles.
Yes, well, as you pointed out, the city has struggled for many years to attract retail businesses and fully develop the town center, despite good efforts. The Waves proposal was halted by the developer during the early stages. The city heard from residents concerned about the amount of proposed housing, and we also heard questions about the small amount of proposed retail, among other issues. I know one of the things that the city that we had at one point, we don't have anymore, that would have really helped us, was the redevelopment funding. And it was a crime when that was taken away from us, because that was our one source of money, dedicated funding for economic development and affordable housing. I believe it's time to revisit the 2008 Town Center Specific Plan and envision something different. Retail, I think it's just going to get worse in terms of the overall picture in general everywhere. And so I'm not pinning my hopes on that, even though I would be happy if we were able to attract something. I'd like Scotts Valley to reimagine what could be with a focus on economic development. But the city must also honor an existing affordable housing obligation in the town center. City used some affordable housing money to buy some of that land. And so we are required to spend some of that on affordable housing, which is a good thing. We obviously need affordable housing. I'd like to explore other concepts, possibly developing outdoor-oriented businesses to build on the city's image as an outdoors area, gateway to the mountains, lots of outdoors activities here, certainly lots of trees. And also another idea would be
Thank you,
to
Jack.
build a convention center. Thank you.
A convention center. Thank you, Jack. Next, Donna Lind.
Yes, I still hang on to the dream of one of the earlier designs that was, I don't know how to compare it other than similar to the Santana Row, but with a Scotts Valley feel. I know that retail has changed, and that's been challenging for our Economic Development Committee. And there's been many challenges out of their hands. It's certainly not from a lack of work, but I still feel that something of that nature with housing, affordable housing and housing above offices and retail below, with gathering points and parkings connect Kings Village Shopping Center and the what we now call Kmart Shopping Center is my dream. I feel that some of the developers don't realize the pull that there would be, the draw from not just Scotts Valley, but San Lorenzo Valley, the Summit area, Pasatiempo, Carbonero Estates. Many of the people that are in these outlying areas would love to be able to come shop in Scotts Valley. And I see other areas such as Campbell where retail is successful, but it's a different type of retail. It's not so much the big box, but something unique and maybe an anchor. But I want to see the little brew pubs and wine bars and boutique shops and gathering places. And I still believe that's possible. Otherwise, I'd rather us wait and enjoy our parks.
Thank you, Donna. John Lewis, same question. Why has the town center vision taken so many years to realize? What parts of the town center plan would you push in your upcoming term and how?
So the town center plan is something that's new to me. I'm new to the city and I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of all the problems. And I started scratching the surface on this, and I heard that it's been nearly 20 years since we started this project. And so far we have a Starbucks and an empty hangar to show for it. And it's the third Starbucks that we have. And, you know, if we were to roll back the clock 40 or 50 years, there might've been a hangar there when we first started thinking about this. Like, I want to question some primitives. You know, what is our goal here? What are we trying to give the people of Scotts Valley? And is it time to open up comments again? Is the businesses, or are the businesses that we're trying to attract something that are something that we can maintain and sustain during a post-COVID future? We don't entirely know what businesses are going to look like after COVID and whether or not it's going to be an ongoing issue. One of the things that we can do to overcome this would take a look at whether or not having micro bay restaurants would be a possibility with an outdoor, possibly semi-covered eating area to allow people who want to start restaurants in a small location and then build from there into the community might be something worth merit of discussion. But really, I'm exasperated. When I first moved to Scotts Valley, a couple of real estate agents told me that there's an ongoing plan and it's starting to show fruit. And then I dig in and read some of the documentation, and I have no idea why it has taken so long to produce so little on this, and we really might want to reboot it.
Thank you, John. Okay, so now for our lightning round, we will ask a series of yes or no questions. Please raise your hand if the statement applies to you, and I'll name the candidates who raised their hands. And so these ideas that I'm about to list came up in our interviews with you for our Scotts Valley City Council podcast episode. Okay, so please raise your hand if you would support increasing the city's hotel tax as a way to increase city revenue. Okay, I see Jack Dilles, Donna Lind, and Randy Johnson. Thank you. Okay, so next, please raise your hand if you would support term limits for Scotts Valley City Council. I see John Lewis, Jack Dilles, and Randy Johnson. Thank you. Raise your hand if you would support the creation of a community advisory committee on policing. I see John Lewis. Got it. Okay, and this last one is on the city's inclusionary law. That law requires housing projects of a certain size to offer 15% of units to people with low incomes, and those units have to be affordable. That law applies to part of the city. generally along Scotts Valley Drive and Mount Herman Road. So please raise your hand if you would support expanding the areas to which the city's affordable housing inclusionary law applies. I see John Lewis, Jack Dilles, Donna Lind, and Randy Johnson. Thank you. That was our lightning round. Okay, so back to questions from the readers and listeners. What is your plan in 2021 to better prepare Scotts Valley for possible wildfire and mudslides? What are your lessons learned from the CZU Lightning Complex fire? You'll have 90 seconds. Randy Johnson.
Thank you. We did learn some very hard lessons with the latest fires, the wildfires that really descended upon our areas, including especially San Lorenzo Valley and so forth. It was, I think, a stark reminder of just how terrible Mother Nature can be when she unleashes her amazing amount of force. And in this particular case, a lot of it had to do with just bad luck. I mean, you had lightning strikes, you had extremely hot and dry weather, but you also have something that is, I think accelerated the fire, and that was the underbrush and so forth in different parts of the county. And it's something that we've been talking about with good forestry management that sometimes just goes by the wayside. And my plan is to engage the federal government, the state government, the county government, and have a collective defensible space that we can all kind of agree upon that is going to make us a little bit more hardened against wildfires. So it would probably be about a 6, 7, 8 year plan, but I think engaging those agencies would really help out, and I plan to do that when I'm reelected.
Thank you, Randy. Donna Lind.
Yes, I'd attended a conference a couple of years ago, right after some of the prior terrible fire season. And one of the speakers was from the forestry department. And one of the things that he said is, for years, California stopped the maintenance that really makes the forest healthier. And sometimes clearing some of these forests really, even though we all want to save the trees, ends up damaging the forest and that they're not as healthy. And now, as he said a couple of years ago, that thinking has changed, but there's been so many years of being behind that there are millions of acres, of course, maybe not now after this year's fires, but there were millions of acres that need a clearing that they said, that they explained, it will take decades to get back to completing the work that needs to be done. But I do think as a community, we need to impress and enforce defensible space, working with the fire department. I know our fire department has a program where if you come in and clear limbs, and they will come and pick up and chip this the limbs and branches and things that for free or very low cost depending on what it is. And we're talking about having in our city council meeting, working with them, doing some public workshops, getting awareness and working on making those improvements and helping all of us make precautions to be safe.
Thank you, Donna. So again, the question, what's your plan in 2021 to better prepare Scotts Valley for possible wildfire and mudslides? What are your lessons learned from the CZU Lightning Complex fire? John Lewis.
I'm not currently a politician, and I don't understand what knobs and levers local politicians have within reach to be able to control and encourage different type of land maintenance. However, CAL FIRE has released very, very easy to understand guidance on what can be done to defend homes that are in generally in a forest. They are clear, concise, easy to understand. They have a website called readyforwildfire.org that outlines all of them. If we were to engage with the Scotts Valley Fire Department and have them work with homeowners and business owners, property owners at large, to figure out what type of guidance they can give on what needs to be changed to allow the individual defense of homes and residences, buildings and otherwise, is something we should absolutely look into. We need to look immediately at what we can do to affect things as fast as possible to defend homes, businesses, and structures. The idea beyond that in taking care of the forest at large is something we absolutely should address. And during that, we should engage the federal, oh gosh, I forgot who is, Bureau of Land Management. I forgot who controls all the forests, but 45% plus of all forest in California is owned and managed by the federal government. We absolutely need to engage with them to help them become more responsible with their land.
Thank you, John. Lastly, Jack Dilles.
Yes, well, you know, we need to work closely with our separate fire district, which we do already, but I'd like to see more conversations where we have a plan. We can support each other, and I know a lot of this falls under the fire district's responsibility, but we're also responsible. And so I'd like to see us have more conversation, in particular around the subject of creating a defensible space that that Mayor Johnson just mentioned. And just there are lots in town that are overgrown. I know that because I see them. And I'd like to, some cities have an aggressive approach where it's easier when the fire department is part of the city, but I know I worked for Morgan Hill and they had a very aggressive approach that said that, you know, identified the properties in town that did not cut their weeds down in the risky fire time. And if they did not cut it down, it was cut down for them and they were billed. If they didn't pay, it went on the property tax roll. So there was an outlay of cash, which is difficult in these days for local government. But we need to be more aggressive, I believe, however that might play out, but a way of just taking more control and making sure we minimize our risks. And of course, make sure that the community understands, is educated, and I would think everybody would be aware, but nonetheless, do everything we can to work with the fire district to make sure that our residents are aware of what they need to do to reduce that fire risk. And lastly, our insurance
Thank you, Jack. We're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so now back to the questions. Again, these came from more than 50 interviews we did with Scotts Valley residents and a survey. If elected, how will you ensure that communities of color are treated justly and fairly by local law enforcement? Donna Lind.
The city's actually talking about doing some public work outreach. Our city manager has been working with council on some workshops, but we have also just gone through a policy review. The police department has just gone through all of the policies, which they do every few years, but one of it was addressing and training officers on various topics, but including equity and some changes in our reporting. And just, I think it's a community-wide effort, including our police department, that we want to be sure that we are fairly treating our citizens fair and that there's a way to report. And many of those changes, as you heard in the last city council meeting on the police reform, were discussed and are being addressed within the police department with increased reporting and review and procedures to be able to notify a supervisor if an officer, that they can discreetly notify a supervisor if they feel something was done inappropriately. There's a policy being put in place to enable those reports to be made confidentially and fair and safely.
Thank you, Donna. Again, the question, if elected, how will you ensure that communities of color are treated justly and fairly by local law enforcement? Jack Dilles.
Yes. Well, you know, the other thing besides our police chief stepping forward and proactively making sure that we're looking at our use of force policy and training for officers, I've been very impressed that our police department for many years now has been tracking the ethnicity of persons that they are stopped. And they're not too far from what the census says our ethnic makeup is. And that was, for me, a very proactive way of trying to keep track of, are we being reasonable in who we're stopping and how that's working. So I was impressed with that. Nonetheless, this is a very large societal issue. Obviously, it's playing out in very negative ways across the country, and we're aware of that. We have to be aware of that. But it really is a larger societal issue. And for me, it's about somehow encouraging and not only having more respect as society for persons of color, but trying to draw them or encourage them into positions of leadership. So I'm very much interested in doing that. I'd like to see community conversations of some type. I don't know that it should be led by the city, but as a community, I've been impressed that our local high school students and college students led our two Black Lives Matter marches in Scotts Valley, the first marches ever in town. And that's a great start. I'd like to build on that. I'd like to be part of that conversation.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Johnson.
Thank you. There's been a lot of turmoil that has happened over the past 5-6 months. And I think the city has tried to do a very good job in terms of addressing that. And our police department, in particular, our chief of police, when there were marches, when there were community conversations, he was front and center. And one of the things I instructed our city to do was listen. Let's have a conversation here. And I think to a large extent, that has happened with our chief of police, with our city manager, and also with the city council. We're very sensitive to some of the things that have happened in not just in our country, but also in our city. And I think in general, our police officers do a very good job in a very tough world in terms of enforcement. Like Donna said, though, we've enhanced our training. We've done, I think, a good job in reinforcing the idea that equity and use of force policies are respected and improved upon. And so a lot of that has to do with the training that happens like each and every month. Our officers are trained. And it's my understanding that some of the officers that we are interviewing are in fact modeling diversity in terms of who we are hiring.
Time.
Thank you, Randy. John Lewis. Oh, you're muted, John.
There we go.
There you go.
So we put a lot of faith in our police officers, and we have trust, and they've executed faithfully, and they've done a great job so far. And trust is a two-way street, and it has to be maintained. I've always felt through my work in compliance and computer security that shining the light of day on anything that's questionable absolutely makes accountability real. And accountability is what fuels trust. I think that we should absolutely have citizen oversight during the prosecutorial process. Anytime there's an incident with police officers, having closed doors around that kind of thing makes it a black box, and it absolutely degrades trust between the community, the police officers, and everybody involved. I know the police officers have already taken some sensitivity training, which is ongoing and required. I know there's also some unconscious bias training, which is ongoing and required, and that's absolutely helpful. One of the things that I think we could also do is try to encourage police officers, if they're not, to try and become a member of the Scotts Valley community. And once again, I'm not already a politician, so I'm not sure what knobs and levers we have available there. But if we can find a way of creating housing opportunities within Scotts Valley so the police officers who work in Scotts Valley will also live in Scotts Valley, it would make them a part of the community, and it would help create a bond there. I also think that we need to define all policing methods that are questionable, and we need to do some things that supersede qualified immunity, because qualified immunity gives free rein to keep things in the dark, especially when bad things happen.
Thank you, John. Okay, next question. Scotts Valley residents want to know, what is your plan to encourage residents to travel by bike, walk, or public transportation instead of a car? What kinds of new infrastructure or programs would you push if elected? Again, you'll have 90 seconds. Jack Dilles.
Yes, well, the city did hire Ecology Action to create an alternative transportation plan that's nearing completion. I've been involved just meeting with the committee and Ecology Action over the last year as part of that, and they're looking specifically at painting a picture of what the future should look like for cyclists, for pedestrians, and for the disabled, alternative ways of getting around town, which is very important. And one of the goals of this, besides creating a blueprint for the future, is to allow the city to get grants. We have very little money for transportation, and so unfortunately, to do something new and different and better, we need grants. And this is a tool towards getting there. It's actually an update to an existing 2012 bicycle master plan. So we're moving in that direction. I'm a cyclist myself. I'm also a hiker. And the city is certainly, I would love to see us continue to create facilities that are great for cyclists and walkers. I know we just opened up the Glenwood Preserve, which is there for hikers, for cyclists, and for dog walkers. So I'd like to see us do more of that. And it's good for our kids. It's a safety thing. Our kids, many kids their parents don't want them to ride to school, for instance. I've been going several times with what's called the rolling school bus, where kids bicycle to school with adults and parents.
Hey, thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
We're sticking to a strict schedule. John Lewis.
I've lived in San Francisco, Oakland, and a number of other Bay Area cities where I've been a bike commuter. One of the things I've always tried to do is live as close to my office as I possibly can, so I could walk or ride a bike to work every single time I can. And Berkeley has tried to do various things to ensure the safety of bikers. Oakland is in the middle of implementing a plan of creating barricades and dedicated bike lanes separate from sidewalks. San Francisco is trying out a number of different things, split height for bicycles and walkers on the same sidewalk. I recently went to Amsterdam, and I've seen how it can be done successfully. Amsterdam is a model of how bicycle and walking traffic can coexist with cars. However, they've sacrificed the transit speeds of cars tremendously. It would take a sea change in public mindset to be able to implement effectively real systems that work, guaranteeing the safety of bicyclists as well as walkers. And we as a country have been building a car forward society that will take years and lots of money to undo. But really, we need to find a way of addressing, do people feel safe when they commute on a bike, and whether or not they feel safe walking. And education, if we make any types of changes to the roadways with dedicated bike lanes, or moving parking to the opposite side of bike lanes, and including the fire department in that decision because they have individual concerns there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Randy Johnson.
Thank you. So one of the important things that I tried to do was I serve on the Regional Transportation Commission, and there, from Silton into the high school, a new trail was called Safe Routes to Schools. And that has enhanced the ability for our citizens to walk, ride bikes, walk their dogs. And it's also an entry really to the Glenwood Preserve and the trails that Jack talked about. One of the important things I did many, many years ago was help forge a compromise between a developer and the open space at Glenwood. And through that agreement, $1 million or $1.5 million was actually given to the land trust for them to do this. Now, it took many years for us to kind of keep on the land trust to make sure that they fulfilled their obligation to build the trails. But we're seeing that right now. COVID-19 has kind of changed the transportation habits of working men and women because fewer people are actually driving their cars to work. But I think Metro has done a good job with respect to the bus system over the hill, which allows people to actually engage and work as on the buses as they enter the bus. And so you know, I think it's one of those things where people will slowly gravitate towards those things as it becomes available.
Thank you, Randy. And Donna Lind.
Yes, as Randy mentioned and Jack, we have recently invested with grant money, so it didn't even come from our general fund, in bike lanes on Glenwood. This had been an area near the city limits that had been very dangerous, and that's just been completed with grant monies, Measure S, Measure M, and RTC money through Mount Herman and Scottsdale Drive in the enhanced bike lanes and the intersection for bikes so that they have separated safe areas. And I'm also serving on Metro, and as the mayor said, we have really worked through Metro in coordination with each of the cities, and will continue to work on being able to carry more bikes and be able to transport bikes on the buses. And the Blue Bonnet area is also money that an area that we are looking and have received approval with grant monies from RTC, and will include some enhanced bike lanes and sidewalks on that area, which is one of the areas near the school that we hear from the community has not been safe with the pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic. So my work will be continuing on that and working with RTC and Metro in partnership to be able to find funds to increase the bike lanes that make people feel more comfortable and safe riding to and from work and school.
Thank you, Donna. Next question. Many Scotts Valley voters we heard from called for more help for seniors. Many seniors said they have felt isolated since COVID. Given the city's limited budget, what will you do in your upcoming term to restore and expand services for Scotts Valley seniors? Again, you'll have 90 seconds. Back to Donna Lind.
Okay, I've served on the Senior Council of AAA for over 10 years, working with seniors, and very involved with our senior center and with our mobile home parks. And in fact, participating just on Mondays with the Senior Life Association in podcasts, or actually Zoom meetings, and helping with a lot of the outreach with Darsha, our senior center leader, in getting word out and offering assistance through meals. We'll continue to do that. I've done this for years as we have as a council supporting seniors. But we've done outreach during COVID and making sure that those that are isolated are getting meals, and through our parks and through our senior center and through senior living and through community bridges. A lot of outreach and a lot of work to connect. Seniors have been a passion all through my career as on council, but my mom was president of Project Scouts, so I feel she left that with me as a very important part of our community, and it's something that we as a community have prioritized, and I will continue the outreach that I do and the work that I do with seniors.
Thank you, Donna. Jack Dilles.
Yes, well, I'm currently on the Seniors Advisory Council that Donna just mentioned. I'm vice chair, and on that, we do watch out for seniors on that committee, and I gather all kinds of information. I'm tracking what's happening countywide, and there are a lot of services that tend to happen through nonprofits and from county services. And they, such things as, especially during the COVID era, there was this, I think it was called Great Meals, but there were meals being provided to seniors from paid for by FEMA from some restaurants. None of them happen to be located in Scotts Valley, as it turned out. But of course, there are many other programs. Meals on Wheels is very low cost. And I know that they have a tie-in to our senior center. Our senior center is very popular. Unfortunately, it's been closed down for a while, but it's very active. We have many great activities, and right now activities are happening even online to some extent. But folks really need to get back into our senior center. So I'm looking forward to that opening up again. I was involved with the Museum of Art and History in Santa Cruz, Ma. They had an exhibit last year called "We Are Still Here." And I was part of more than 100 people that participated. I'm not an artist. I wish I were, but I helped kind of work on what that show would look like, spent a lot of time in there, and was really cool to see that.
Jack, thank you. Thank you, Jack. And Randy Johnson.
Thank you. So, you know, personally, I've experienced what the effects of COVID have had on the isolation of our seniors. My mom was 97, and she had a very vibrant social life. But she died approximately 2 months ago, and during that time, all her visitors dried up, and her social life became something of an issue. So it was important for my wife, my children, and me to go over as often as possible to see her. And I think a lot of it has to do, I mean, government has an obligation to do as much as we can. And we do that with our seniors. We have a senior center. We have a fabulous director. Darshna does a great job. But even that senior center has been not allowed to fully function with the people that they normally encounter, and people gather, having a gathering place. So my thing is that individuals and families and churches and you know, those entities, as much as possible, government's important, but I would encourage our community, you have family members, do that, visit them, take the extra time in order to kind of make sure that they're okay.
Thank you, Randy. John Lewis.
Seniors in my life generally feel isolated the most when they can't get out of their home and interact with the people they want to, or have the independence they want to with shopping for groceries, or just going out and doing the things that us younger folk take for granted. And I definitely think that exploring, putting together a shuttle program between places with high concentrations of seniors, like senior centers, or not the senior center, but senior living centers, and also just being able to schedule a ride to help people get to where they need to go to do their errands, would really give people the freedom that they need to feel like they can get out into the world and engage with it. Giving people independence, and it helps mindset tremendously, and it helps people engage with those around them and live an active life. I think we could also put together a fairly lightweight volunteer program for people who are in Scotts Valley, maybe engage high schoolers and see if we could work with teachers on some sort of an extracurricular program, and provide N95 masks and follow reasonable guidance to keep people safe while they're doing that. I definitely think we can come up with some creative solutions here to give people independence and also remove the feeling of isolation that they're most likely feeling during COVID.
Thank you, everyone. Now for closing statements. What do you want to leave voters with? You'll have 90 seconds again. Randy Johnson.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Santa Cruz Local for inviting us, and I really do appreciate everybody on this stage, if you will, of jumping in the arena, because the life of a city council person, I think, in the last year has become a little bit more difficult. It's become harder because we have fewer revenues, we have a lot more challenges, and that's one of the things I want to be able to do in terms of public service, is to bring my experience and bring my problem-solving capabilities to the very real problems that we are facing as a community. I think we have to stay positive. I think we have to be able to engage and have those conversations, be able to talk to our citizens, listen to our citizens. And, you know, I've been doing that for a very long time. And I think a time when experience and getting things done is going to be an extremely important component as a city council person in the coming years. And that's why Again, I want to thank everybody here who attended in the audience, and I would be honored to have your vote on November 3rd. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Jack Dilles.
Yes. Well, we do have some serious financial issues. We thought they were solved with Measure Z when the voters thankfully approved our sales tax last March, but we didn't know COVID was coming. So unfortunately, we're finding ourselves with a major backslide. So our job is to keep the budget in check with reduced staffing and all the things that go with that, with service level reductions, and do the best we can. And I think I'm particularly suited to being part of this process with the rest of the council. So we do need, of course, to rebuild city service levels, reduce employee turnover, and manage finances so that residents may enjoy the excellent community services. But stand by. We don't know exactly what the solution is going to be until we know when we've hit bottom and we're coming back up. We need to get back to where we were, but what the ultimate solution is going to be, we need to stand by until we know the depth of the problem. So stay tuned on that. We also need increased affordable housing. At the same time, we need to balance that with the need to keep this a small town. They're both important, but I know we all love living here in the town that it is, and so we don't want to see it change too much. And we need to focus on economic development that we did talk about a bit and explore new options for the town center and our vacant business buildings. I would like to briefly just mention, to follow up to the fire question before, the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, is going to be holding hearings this month in Sacramento about ways to deal with the insurance issue. I'm sure almost everybody has had their insurance non-renewed. And so stay tuned on that, but he's got a whole host of ideas.
Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, we actually do have everyone's, all the candidates' responses to how will you advocate for residents who have lost their home insurance or non-renewal on our website. It's at santacruzlocal.org/elections. And you can read the candidates' responses there. Lastly, John Lewis, what would you want to leave voters with?
So I'm 41 years old, and I think I'm the youngest person running for city council or hoping to be on city council. And I think that's doing our youth a huge disservice. We need to find a way of engaging our youth earlier on to get them to be part of city council. If I were to only serve one term and someone were to replace me who went through school here in Scotts Valley, that understands how we spend our money and could make strong guidance on what we can do more effectively to educate the next generation of Scotts Valley residents, I would personally consider that a success. I absolutely think we need to strongly discuss term limits so we can have new, fresh opinions on the direction Scotts Valley needs to go in and the question whether or not old ideas need to be replaced with new ideas. And I absolutely think that we need to find a way of encouraging people who don't have the same economic advantage in that I do and all of the city council members do by engaging in politics. It takes a huge amount of life experience and wealth to be able to sit here and say, I'm not going to work and earn money for the next 4 years. And I think that people who have to work every day, that need childcare, that need educational systems to support them and educate their children, need to have a voice here. And I would be happy to have somebody replace me after 4 years who has that opinion, that has that experience, by finding a way of reaching out to them and possibly even encouraging the state to allow ranked choice voting to change the tone and tenor of politics. I have a lot more and I could keep going, but that's as far as I can get.
Thank you, John. Thank you, all the candidates. Thank you so much for attending. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I missed you. I am so sorry, Donna. Donna Lind.
All right. As I mentioned, all of my adult life has been serving the city of Scotts Valley. 40 years, proud serving with Scotts Valley Police Department. 12 years on city council, 2 terms as mayor. I bring a proven record of experience, of work ethics and dedication, commitment to the city. It's been my home my entire life, my entire adult life. I feel that the next 4 years are going to be difficult, and I believe that I bring that strong experience, relationships, and work ethics that are going to be necessary to negotiate work with our businesses, to support them, and to be able to move forward with the commitment and the anticipation that our citizens believed would happen when we passed Measure Z, and we thought we could recover our fiscal crisis would be ended, or at least working towards that recovery, and that we would be able to provide the salary increases to our police officers that are highly underpaid, and that we've been losing 8-9 officers in the past year because of this. And this was our intent, but COVID and the CZU fires, have pushed that into the future. And this is a commitment that I intend to keep, to work to be able to take care of our public safety and our staff, and to see the city become stable and vibrant again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you to all the candidates for attending. We are so honored that you could join us tonight. Thank you, attendees, for joining us. This is what Santa Cruz Local does. We want to get people watching and engaged in local government. That's the core of what we do as a news outlet. All our journalism is free for everybody to read and listen to. We're supported by our members. Almost 80% of our revenue comes from members, just regular locals who give $9 a month or $99 a year. You can support local news with a Santa Cruz Local membership at santacruzlocal.org/membership. We also invite you to attend our upcoming candidate forums. We have 3 more. Tomorrow, Watsonville City Council and Capitola City Council, and Thursday, the County Board of Supervisors, District 1. We will post the links in the chat, and also invite you to submit questions. We also have a nonpartisan elections guide. That's where we'll post the video for this candidate forum. There's so much more on there, the written candidate questionnaire, as well as the podcast episode with interviews, individual interviews with each of the candidates. So a lot more information you can dig into at santacruzlocal.org/elections. Thank you everyone for attending. We so appreciate your time. Thank you.